There are so many emotions that we experience, but jealousy is an emotion that really can be destructive to our life. And we've all experienced jealousy, regardless of if it was you having someone who you felt was jealous of you or you experiencing feeling jealous of someone else. I think we all probably have been there, but there's a difference in terms of how we respond to it and what we do to make sure that this isn't an emotion that really takes over our life. I read an article just a little bit ago of a tragedy that happened in 2020 in a small town in Texas. And it started out with this relationship that seemed to start out with some connection of love and adoration and connection. And in the end of it, it ended in tragedy and someone losing their life. So in between the two, reading the story, the underlying theme and tone that was occurring was some jealousy was brewing. And this person who was experiencing the jealousy responded to probably the most lowest nature that you could with that emotion. Now, we all, I think, again, have experienced jealousy. And while many of us would not go to the extreme of taking someone else's life, my sister always says that jealousy is cruel to the grave. So even if you're not ending someone's life, I do know that jealousy causes you to act out of character from the loving, divine source that we all come from. It causes us to be disconnected from that. And there are so many reasons that could be, but I think one of them is that when we are in this space of jealousy, it really speaks to this belief that you don't have or you can't have what you see someone else with or what you see someone else being. And that's a whole identity around lack and not having enough. And it's so opposite of the world that we really come from. But when we're in this world or this matrix, we can believe that there are limitations all around us and even limitations within who it is that we are. Jealousy brings about anger, it brings about resentment, it brings envy, it brings a destruction of relationships over and over again. Think about if there was someone that you've had in your life who was jealous of you. What happened in that relationship? Especially if the person didn't correct this behavior, I would think that more than likely that relationship ended, because there's no way to really be connected with someone who is jealous of you, and there's no way for you to be connected with someone in a loving way if you're jealous of them, because that emotion grows and that emotion can become very toxic, and as my sister said, it can become evil to the grave. It can make you be quite an evil acting person. So we want to talk about how can we move through this, what causes this, and how can we make sure that we're not bringing jealousy into 2025, or we're releasing jealousy in 2025, because for some people it could be a bit of a process, but being able to release it is a level of freedom that I know you will want to experience, because nobody likes feeling jealous. That little feeling that starts bubbling up inside of you is just one of the worst feelings, at least in my opinion. I don't like that emotion. And we're gonna talk about it. But before we do, I want you to take a moment and give yourself this opportunity to say, I am about to grow in this moment. And the first way I'm going to grow is I'm going to subscribe to this channel and like this video. So in the next 5 seconds, I want you to take a moment and I want you to subscribe and hit the like button in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you do it? Good. All right, let's move on. So we are going to talk about how do we even get to this state of being jealous? What even brings this on for you? Because this can be really challenging for some people. Even though I know we all have experienced it before, it can be more difficult for some people than others. And so, again, when we're talking about being jealous, we're thinking in a space of lack, or not being enough, not having enough. Not being enough and not having enough, I think, really takes the whole extent of where we could be thinking of. Either we're thinking that we don't have enough and we see somebody else with something that we would want, or we feel that we are not enough and we see someone being what it is that we wish we could be. And I know that we are not born with this emotion of jealousy. It is learned. It is very much so learned. I personally believe that we come into this world in the state of love, but we are taught so many different things in our early formative years that we can latch onto, and then that can be what tends to grow into how we live our life and what emotions we carry deeply. So jealousy, I think, really does come from being in spaces where you were made to feel like you were not enough, or you were in spaces where you didn't have enough, and you could have been in spaces where you really did feel lack, not having much, and seeing people around you having more, and being reminded of what you don't have and what you cannot have. I think those things can be what kind of triggers this. You could be in spaces where if you don't have enough, there could be people who are flaunting what they have to try to provoke this emotion of jealousy in you. And that could be a way that you end up experiencing jealousy, is that it was provoked. In all situations, it's provoked, but it's provoked in different ways. So someone who hasn't had enough can be in spaces with people who have so much, and you could be made to feel like you don't have a lot, or it could be stressed that you don't have what they have. It could be your family who talks about lack all the time. It could be being in a space where people try and limit you and your future and tell you what you will never be able to have, or who you will never be able to be. You could have been in environments where you were compared to other people so much, compared to other people's character, compared to other people's talents, compared to other people's beauty, compared to other people's popularity. These can all be things where you're made to see these people are like this and you are not. Someone putting and feeding you this thing that then becomes a belief that you hold. And these things can really disconnect you from who it is that you are, because you see yourself in the current state and you don't see yourself as being able to grow or being able to attain what it is that you would want, because someone's trying to guide you in the belief that that can never happen, regardless of where it's coming from. And so I say this to say that that really puts you in the place of how you define yourself. How you define yourself really becomes a large factor in how we feel about ourselves, who it is that we see ourselves as being, what we come from. Do we feel shame about who we are and what we came from? Do you have some shame about your past? These things can really ignite emotions that can easily go into that state of jealousy if we don't start to really recognize who it is that we really are. Our life experiences don't really define who we are. It's how we come through our life experiences that are really defining. And we can decide to start coming through life experiences differently at any moment. Hence, right now, it could be 40 years later, and you can say, today, I'm making the decision that I'm about to move through this differently and be different. And that's the real definer of your character and who it is that you are. But we are trained and conditioned to believe that we are our experiences just by themselves. So if we've come up in a home where it was poverty, then we can easily define ourselves as being nothing, or being poverty ourselves, or being not enough, because we came from what this definition of poverty means in our society. We could define ourselves based off of that. And that's an error when we do that, because we are more than our lived experiences. We are what we have, how we've developed because of those experiences. What we have come to decide about ourselves because of those experiences. And so when we really think about that, we at any moment can go back and start redefining what we have come to believe from someone else who tries to make us feel like we weren't enough. More than likely, if there was someone who tried to make you feel like you weren't enough, they may have been projecting their feelings of not being enough onto you, and so, or their insecurities that they really hold, they wanted you to feel what they feel, or that's the only thing that they understood, and so that's the only picture that they could give you is what they understood. But understanding that we are able to go beyond those pictures, we are able to go beyond those experiences and start to ask different questions. And those questions could be, how did I make it to the point that I am now based off of what I experienced? And what does it take to be able to develop or even come through some situations to be where you are now? What are the qualities that helped you to get to where you are now that are ones that you could look at and feel good about? Ones that you could look at and they're actually complementing. They're not negative attributes that someone could say that you have. What are the positive attributes that you've carried on with you to get you from those difficult moments into the days that you are in right now? And these are new ways that you can start defining yourself, that we can start defining ourselves. We can take these opportunities when we feel the heaviness of our past to make peace with those things, because we know that we have the opportunity to always progress. And we can start looking at things that are happening around us. I love to think about nature because nature is a wonderful way that we can learn about ourselves as well, because it's like what's going on out there is also what can go on with inside us. And so we can look at situations that go on that are all speaking of lack and limitation, but we can also look at things within nature that are abundant. We can look at the sky, we can look at the stars, we can look at the oceans. We can think about the abundance of air that we have and understand that we also come from that. So we can also develop endlessly if we choose to start developing, if we choose to start taking different actions in our life today than what we've done, we would know that we will start having different experiences. But we have to test it out. We have to test out if we start doing something differently, we're going to start getting different results. But if we do the same thing over and over again, we get the same results in one way or another. It ends up in the same summation. We get the same thing. But think about what is something that you can do differently, especially when it comes to growing out of this experience of jealousy. And some things that we could do different is start to look at ourselves differently, start to speak to yourself differently, start to write out things that you like about yourself. And that takes effort sometimes because we can easily beat up on ourselves and judge self. So it may take intentionally writing down the things that you really do like about yourself and focusing on those things and even developing those parts of you even more, using those skills more that you like about you, or those attributes, use them more in your day-to-day life so you can feel it more and see it more and experience that more, and give yourself credit for those things. Because when we do start seeing ourselves from this space of growth and endless possibilities in our growth, there's no need to really be jealous of anyone else, because you can be in a space with someone knowing that you're growing in your very unique ways, and you could experience the joy of that. And then when you're in that space, you can also be able to see someone else growing, having attention given to them, getting praise for the things that they do, and know that you're coming from the same space. You both are growing, but you're in your own element of growth. You're in your own uniqueness. So you don't need for, your experience to look like their experience, because you've fallen in love with your own experience and how uniquely that growth is going to look for you, that it also won't look like for anyone else. And so really thinking about that, thinking about the fact that when you commit to growth and developing yourself, and you start seeing the rewards of you developing yourself, you just want to do that more in the way that that is done. And you admire seeing someone else do it. So you can be in the same room with someone who's growing or experiencing abundance, experiencing goodness. And you can recognize it because you know that's happening in your life in its unique way too. And you can also look and say, in admiration, wow, I really admire how they did this thing, and learn from that too. Because you know that once you've learned something and you apply something, you get rewarded too. It's no competition. The competition truly is just that version of you that may have been in limitation and had a certain life experience, as opposed to this version of you that now understands that we are ever growing and we have the potential to ever grow and expand and, really shine from our growth, but it's in your unique way. No need to want it to be like someone else's, because we feel it the best when it's unique to us, based on the experiences that we are here for in our own individual lives. And so, I really would want to encourage to really think about, if you experience jealousy, if that's a thing for you, really where it comes from, and start knocking down those limited and false beliefs that have been planted in you somewhere along the line, where it came from, knowing that you don't have to live by those definitions anymore. You don't have to live by those beliefs anymore. You're able to do something different. And that's how we come into this new year, starting the road of new experiences, starting the road of growing. It's a spiritual process to grow out of these types of low level and low vibrational emotions, to choose higher vibrational emotions. At the end of the day, we know that it's either love or it's fear. So anything that at the root is talking about fear, we have to go in the other direction and search for love so that we can steer clear from the fear and only be in love. We're going to need that more than ever in these times that we're coming into. And so starting with yourself and understanding how to love yourself more, it's going to automatically want you to knock down all those false negative beliefs. And it may take time, but we have our lifetime to do it. So put in the comments if you are on this journey to release jealousy and low level emotions. In the comments, put high vibrations. In the comments, put high vibrations. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.